10:01. 10:01, let's rock and roll. Welcome to the Hammerdown Roadshow, where we're going to put the pedal to the metal in the Hammerdown and talk trends, tech, and tunes. My name is Jay Mervis, Healthcare Sales Director here at Fortinet. Welcome to the 8th installment of our podcast series. I'm here with two of my favorite channel people, Dylan Cooper and Matt Larkin. Today's trend is solutions in the channel. Fortinet, if you don't know, is 100% a channel company, and our growth and success is hand in hand with our partners and how they bring Fortinet into what might be a multi-vendor solution set that they deliver to customers. Let's get some introductions today on the channel team that I work closest with. Dylan Cooper, tell us a little bit about yourself and your background and your responsibility here at Fortinet.
Hey, thanks, Jay. Thanks for having us here as well, by the way. I've actually known Jay for over 20 years. I worked at CDW prior to Fortinet, and I was in sales there where we helped build out the healthcare practice. After about 18 years, I took a little hiatus, I'll call it a quasi-retirement, and then realized I like helping people, but I wanted to not be in sales, but get back into the channel so I could help more people. So ultimately, that's how I ended up in the channel, and Fortinet's a great organization, so that's why I came here.
Yeah, what are you responsible for here at Fortinet, Dylan? So anybody that consumes the podcast can say, hey, I'm going to call Dylan.
Great question. So I run by Fortinet's healthcare definition, right? So that includes medical device manufacturers, pharma, payers, and obviously the traditional anything with a bed, right? So large healthcare organizations. And I'm responsible for CDW's healthcare division and driving business through that sector.
Awesome. Hey, Matt, what about your background in bio? Love having you on. We've done a lot of barnstorming together on the East Coast here.
Yes, we have. Hey, so call me a 25-year veteran of the channel. So prior to Fortinet, I spent about 20 years at a large networking teal-based company, helping build networks across the world. Now here at Fortinet, trying to secure all of that data and see if we can make the world a little safer place to be.
Awesome. And Matt, what are you responsible for from a channel perspective here at Fortinet?
Hey, so up until a couple of weeks ago, I would have told you that I had responsibility for all the national partners, right? So all the big dogs that are out there, really from Maine down to Mid-Atlantic out to about the Dakotas. Now I am the leader for Presidio, and I covered Presidio nationally and quasi globally for our relationship with Fortinet.
Awesome. So we've got two of our strongest partner channel account managers on the call today. Let's transition and go over to tech. One of the things that we're seeing from a healthcare perspective, and I talk about this all the time, is the 5 R's impacting healthcare. They're all interconnected. So ransomware, resource constraints, rural, radiology, all tying into risk. Dylan, what are you seeing with the CDW healthcare team from a trend perspective on what they're addressing with the customer base and how they're engaging you and our local sales teams in our healthcare practice?
Great question. So obviously there are many discussions around some of the upcoming rules, right? So you have the 2023 outpatient payment rule. So basically that's expected to provide more on reporting, right? Around medical enrollment, payment, quality of the reporting. And those changes are going to lead and are leading to rural health expansion, right? That's in addition to the Patch Act and telemedicine growth areas. So there's many discussions happening with sales leaders within CDW Healthcare and the sales reps themselves on how healthcare organizations they work with have a strategic, we'll call it focus around governance of risk and compliance, right? So GRC. So with these GRC initiatives, right, that allows reduced risk for their internal and external organizations. Simply stated, I try to view it as protection and policy for their brand. Fortunately, we're heavily interconnected with our solutions offerings and with Gartner visibility. So that allows the sales reps within CDW to, we'll call it, be more prescriptive and address more of the security challenges for that organization, which also leads to heavy growth in services. So that's what a lot of the discussions I'm having are really based around.
Yeah, so it is interesting, Dylan, because we worked together for a long time building out CDW's healthcare practice back in those early pilot days. And it seems like the world has come back around. It diverged from the legislation and the patient experience to what it is now, to where that's driving a lot of the behavior on what we're seeing from our customers and partners are leaning into it. So that's awesome that you've identified all those areas from an industry trend on how we're building our business.
Yeah.
So, hey, Matt, what are you seeing with activity from the Presidio end?
Yeah, it's kind of neat because the timing for this conversation is actually really, really good, based on some of the things that we're seeing. One of the largest opportunities that we're receiving, that we're in the middle of right now, is a New England-based company who builds healthcare devices. Right, with the new regulations that are out there, there is now let's say a new awareness or a new let's focus on the fact that, hey, you can't have an OT environment where every device in the environment is not secured, especially when you're dealing with patient lives. So now a lot of what we're starting to see, and the opportunity that we're primarily working on right now, is the idea of, okay, so what are these device manufacturers going to do to secure their devices? And it's not like they can just expand and say, hey, I'm going to clip security into it. So what they're doing is they're putting a front on, in front of it. So they're using our technology in front of their devices to then revamp their offering out to all hospitals. So one of the opportunities that we're working on right now looks like it'll be 5,000 plus devices in 130 countries around the world, all in hospitals. This is a fairly complex opportunity just because of the logistics piece of it. But think about what this means right now, right? When you think about all of the devices that sit onto a medical network, and now that, the idea of, hey, we've got to do some sort of comprehensive security, and we're pushing this back onto the manufacturer of the devices. All of these device manufacturers are now scrambling because they haven't had to think about security in this sense, and they're now responsible for it. It's now got to be a part of their offering. So huge opportunity for us. It's again, whether it's the pandemic, whether it is any one of these things that's going on that's really changed everything in how we go to market. Being in this industry, we're just right place, right time, and our ability to be able to, deliver solutions to a vastly expanding, security scope as far as, what's going on out there in the market. So.
Yeah, and that's awesome, man. And both of you are tying into exactly what we've seen from the time I started 18 months ago, is where the EMR and cloud consumption and work from home, virtual care. So you see the three pillars of virtual care with virtual visit, telehealth, and remote patient monitoring. Remote patient monitoring has been, super hot in enabling those services. Connected medical. So Dylan, you referred to the Patch Act. There's two sides of that coin, getting the inventory. We have to have a partner that's going to be able to do the professional services, like you said, as well as sell all the product to go in and give them visibility and enforce policy. And Matt, you talk about embedding that, all this stuff ties together, like legislation, patient care, all tied together. And then the system expansion, mergers and acquisitions. There's no more, there's much fewer small hospitals out there now. And we've seen the consolidation for, 12 years now, right, Dylan? I mean, we sat next to each other forever, but there's no, 15 different hospitals in a market. It's two.
You're right. And that's what's beneficial about Fortinet as a whole, right? So we're not a niche security company, very broad portfolio. So over 64 different solution areas, with obviously security as the focus. So that's very exciting for partners too, because it allows them a great deal of expansion within their security portfolios. So it's nice to grow with a partner, right? It's not a one deal in and out, and then, a renewal, right? So you can help not only the partner, but the partner themselves feels great because they're providing a great deal of solutions and expanding with that customer of theirs. So when they can add value and feel great about it and make money along the way, I mean, what else can you do as a partner when you can, check all those boxes, right? So that's fun.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and having the open ecosystem, we just broke 500 different OEMs and manufacturers that are in our 500 plus part ecosystem. So we spend a significant amount of time, and as Jim Overbeck always says, we don't want anybody to get compromised, right? But
No.
I always say we would love to back up a Ford truck with a partner, but that's not going to happen. So we can stair step it in, but we do have 50 products. We're in 8 market guys. We're Gartner's Magic Quadrant leader in 3, and we've got a lot of positive things going on with cybersecurity mesh architecture to be able to go and deal with that complex threat landscape.
So let's focus on that conversation for a second, right? Because folks tend to look at us and they either have one or two frames of reference, okay? Either they look at us and they kind of go, yeah, really good less expensive firewalls, right? Or they've seen the 40 product slide, okay? And all of a sudden you step back and you watch their eyes get big as they realize, wow, these guys end to end own the security industry as far as a solution set. But at that point, they tend to get a little bit intimidated because they see 50, 40 acronyms on that slide. And the branding and the thought process, and you kind of mentioned it earlier with Gartner, is the way we need to think about this, okay, and the way that people need to think about us. If you were going to build a defense, okay, in front to ward off bad things, and somebody said to you, okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you one soldier from every major army in the world, and that's going to be your frontline defense, okay? The best, not even just one soldier. I'm going to give you the best soldier from every army in the world, and that'll be your frontline defense. But now you get there and you've put up your defense, and what's the first thing you realize? Nobody speaks the same language. They can't communicate with each other. They have no way to relate strategy. They have no way to act in unison. And the bad guys are just shooting them off one by one. It looks like a honeycomb of the best solutions that can't communicate with each other. And suddenly what Gartner has looked at is they've said, wow, wait a minute. Hey, that methodology that we've been telling everybody for almost 20 something years is best of breed. Everything is the way to build a network. They've completely turned that on our side now and went, mesh, communication, your products have to communicate. So who's the only security company out there that works with their allies, their peers, and their ecosystem? That 500, suit means that we communicate with products that don't have the same logo as us. So when you start to get this idea around, hey, how do I create communication in my security plan? Well, you got to step back and you got to look at the fundamental objective, okay? And you think about the way your network was built and you go, wow, we put point products in everywhere. In fact, the people that put those point products in my network, half of them aren't even here anymore. I'm not sure if those products are patched. I don't even know if we're looking at the dashboards anymore, but I'm afraid to take them out because they do something important. And what we're kind of saying is, this would be a really good time to step back from the whole thing, think about the primary objective, figure out how you're going to create a communication plan amongst your security products. And what products do I need to now insert in my network? And could I consolidate the number of products that I have if I put products in there that communicated with each other and their peers? Okay. It's not about having the best of breed. It's about creating the best communication plan amongst the solution that you've already put in place and starting to think about this differently. That's really what's so unique about what we can do as a company. It's that ability to communicate with everything that the customer may have already purchased, and then by fundamentally changing the way they think about security. So that's kind of where we're evolving to.
Yeah, and that's the benefit of working for an engineering first company. So we're doing great things here. So let's transition over to tech. Dylan, what are you seeing from a services, consulting, delivery perspective with CDW on a product set with Fortinet to deliver these complex solutions on what you talked about from legislation, GRC? Where do you want to go with this?
Yeah, great question, right? So every, call it name partner, call it DMR market, every large reseller, they demand and want, right, predictive growth, not only in their future profitability, but also in their services practice, to tie into your direct question. So we allow the partner to easily scale up, in other words. Within the world of CDW, right, they have had quite a few different acquisitions, from IGNW to others that focus on the GRC topic. Obviously, it's well known about the Sirius merge and acquisition.
Focal Point, I mean, they've had 8 and 8
Point.
quarters. I mean, it's a different company than when we were there, right?
Agreed. And with a heavy focus on services, though, and not just providing the initial value and some services, but a continual expansion on that, right? CDW always did services very well, but a lot of people didn't know about it. They just saw the tip of the iceberg and didn't see everything behind the scenes. Obviously, with the Sirius acquisition, that provides a very large headcount in specialties in not just the world of security, right, but in every other different practice in the IT space. So they're growing rapidly in that area. always increasing their knowledge set as well, right, with how the market changes. But the short version is CDW is working very closely with Fortinet, and this is wonderful to see.
That's awesome, Dylan. Matt, what are you seeing from a technology perspective? You spent a lot of time on this side of the fence developing a lot of our national partners. What are you seeing?
Hey, probably I'm gonna talk a little bit to what Presidio is doing because it for me is so unique and as it accelerated them as a company in just in a massive way. So think about as we came into the beginning of the pandemic, right? We were all faced with the idea of how do I go sell to customers that aren't in an office? Like, who do I call on? How are we going to do this? Well, if I'm a company like Presidio, they see this coming on, and what they do is they change their business model, and they sort of look at it and they kind of go, "Wait a minute, how do we get in front of this?" Well, let's look at what's going on in the market right now. Geez, massive amounts, almost 50% of people's workloads are being moved into the cloud. What if we started to really focus on that? So one by one, you watched all of their sales and engineering folks getting certified on AWS. The mission behind that was, we're going to focus on securely bringing workloads into the cloud, okay? And this has now become the mantra. Their security number has grown from, let's just say, in the 250 range to, say, the better than 800 range over the two-year span. They have hyper accelerated in that market. The reason behind it is all, hey, look, we're gonna follow what people are doing, and we're gonna help people with consumption. We're gonna help them do this in a way that is gonna be more efficient. And suddenly they've now built a massive brand around where they're going. What we're trying to do with them and running next to them is, we're kind of going, hey, as you do that, you change the complete security landscape when you start to move workloads into the cloud like that. Now your biggest enemy on this thing is misconfiguration, is folks, things that you can do wrong as that you might leave open on the way through. And so what you're going to see us start to focus on, and you'll see us actually release a few new cloud products in the next couple of weeks at the upcoming AWS event, where you're going to see us broaden our portfolio in that space and start to address the issues of, how do I do this securely? And how do we make sure that this whole idea of improving application performance and changing location to make it more accessible is done in a safe and secure fashion. So it is neat to watch how this is all unfolding and coming around, but it is fun to work in a market that is just so dynamic like this.
Yeah, and Matt, one of the things that we're supporting is the second most common cause of a breach is a misconfiguration in the cloud. So, having partners like CDW and Presidio that can do the cloud consulting, that's very important up front to be able to do that and secure it, as well as traverse multi-cloud environments, hybrid cloud environments, work from home, remote patient monitoring. All of those things are front and center right now because we don't want people coming back into the hospital. Going back to Dylan, your comment about legislation. All the legislation that's out there, we've been dealing with readmissions for like 15 years now. Nobody wants anybody to go back to the hospital within 30 days because then they don't get paid. So how do we do that? Remote patient monitoring. Everybody's got a significant amount of technology at home. Smartphone is going to allow people to be healthier, which is why we got into this business, is how do we improve patient care without changing bedpans? So, my piece of the tech, we're going to tie all this stuff back in together from some of the trends that Matt talked about and Dylan talked about, but I stand tall on the fabric. The fabric story is what works well with our partners and customers, because whether you're going through a cloud transformation or you want to adopt zero trust network access, zero trust edge, or you have an SD-WAN environment and securing that, you're going to high trust, NIST, whatever you're trying to comply with, going back to regulatory, Dylan. Those things to be able to work and grow with a customer and a partner to make sure, because we all know everybody doesn't have infinite money. World's not run by salespeople and IT people. It's run by accountants and attorneys. So we've got to align with that to make sure that we can support those customers. The other thing that we see, Matt, you touched on this, is having all those different point solutions, is the feedback Fortinet macro level and the healthcare customer advisory board and customers we talk to, prospects we talk to, say, we want to leverage less resellers, less solution providers, as well as 4 or 5 key OEMs that are going to deliver us security, networking, cloud, compute, whatever that might be. We want less of this stuff because the resource constraints and simplifying some of this stuff. And we bring that to the table with both of the partners that you guys support. It's awesome. The call to action, if you're on the Fortinet sales team and you want to get engaged with Presidio or CDW Healthcare, these guys wear me out all the time. You want the healthcare practice involved. We're happy to jump in. Myself, Tom, Eric, we've got a great 10-person team here that overlays and supports. You know, we wear multiple hats with channel, with direct customer facing and partners. We're happy to just jump in and help you out. So the call to action is reach out to us. I'll give everybody's contact information at the end of the call. But Dylan, do you or Matt have anything else before we transition to the best part of the show?
I would just say CDW, I'm very competitive, right? So CDW, to me, stands for can't do without. So Matt, I love competing against you and winning. I was used to doing it for 18 years in sales, but you're awesome. So that's what I would say.
I would say stand by as we reinvent our go-to-market with Presidio. We are doing some things to really look at the way we can go to market in tandem and bring a better portfolio out there. Really address the customer need as far as how do we do all of this? How do we stay with where people are, where the workloads are residing, where they're being processed, and how do we do this in a much more secure way? So yeah, this part, now we get to the good stuff. Now we get a chance to go figure out, let's tie some music into this.
Sure. So normally I let the guests pick, but I knew we'd have Dylan, you said you're competitive. I didn't want any conflict. So I picked the band this week because I love Pearl Jam. And I figured Pearl Jam had a wide enough net for everyone to come in and figure out if you're going to talk about it toward tech, talk about it toward collaboration in the channel, or talk about whatever you like about Pearl Jam. I'm going to go a little overview and then I'll let you guys take the floor. 11 studio albums, 3 of the fastest selling albums all time, top 10 live action band voted on, 85 million albums sold worldwide. First band to publish many of their concerts when you buy CDs. We're all young enough to remember it was cool to go buy CDs. They had, you go to Best Buy and you could buy a Pearl Jam double disc from Krakow. You could buy a 3-disc from Jones Beach, New York. And the greatest thing I love about Pearl Jam, I've seen them twice with you, Coop, is that, they play a different show every night. So you're going to go, and I always talk about this part of my podcast is like corporate Christmas. Nobody tells me anything about what we're going to do except we know the band. But the other thing I love about Pearl Jam, and this is going back to when we were much younger, is the only time I've ever watched C-SPAN is when Stone Gossard and Jeff Ament fought Ticketmaster. So, I mean, they did not like the fact that the fees were hidden because everybody thought that they were monetizing their entire show thing. And they actually didn't use Ticketmaster for a long time. But I just, that's a random thought of mine that, that's the only time I ever watched C-SPAN when I was in college. It was like when Pearl Jam was arguing with congressmen. They were like 5 years older than me. I was like, man, these guys are awesome. So, and they have their own radio station, Channel 22 on Sirius XM. So love that. Let's talk tunes. Matt, you can go first.
Hey, so it was kind of neat because it really forced me to go back and listen to a ton of the library from Pearl Jam and start to really look and think about, when you're starting to roll through, right? You're picking up songs like Black and that, and you're going, wow, there's always this really great guitar riff that kind of starts every one of these things, and then you start to listen to, all right, so where is he? Where are we going on this thing? The first song that kind of came into that. Was actually as I clicked on Black, and because the opening line to it is looking at it going, hey, look, this is an empty campus, and as crowded as the security space is, and with all the way that we've looked at it, we've got to stop and look at this whole thing differently. And so suddenly you repaint the canvas completely when you step back and go, are we filling the fundamental objective? Have we thought about the design of what we're doing in a way that says, hey, if I was really going to think about this as one unit, how would I secure myself? So that old concept of I'm starting with an empty canvas. Hey, look, at some point you've got to be able to do that. You've got to kind of clean the slate and say, are we doing the things that we need to do to kind of secure our environment? And so that for me was just kind of hey, these things kind of click together. So.
Good call. Not on my list, which is always awesome when somebody brings something that I didn't think of. Dylan, what do you have for your first tune that aligns to?
I definitely didn't go as in depth on the thinking with Matt Larkin, but that was impressive, Matt. So obviously we saw them a couple times together. You brought your son to one of them.
2018. Yep.
His son's a great guitarist, by the way. So for all those listening, Jay Mervis' son is the guy's unbelievable, very talented and a great kid.
Thanks, Coop.
So at Wrigley, they did a cover band or cover song, and Eddie Vedder was doing Tom Petty's "Won't Back Down." Right, everybody
Back
knows
down
Tom
with
Petty.
Tom Petty's guitar.
Wow.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
Unbelievable song, right? So I picked the "Won't Back Down" because, I mean, that's how we go and drive business, by not backing down, right, and working together with our partners. So that's the song I would pick.
Cool. So I'm going to take two, like this is a fantasy football draft. I'm going to lead into what you have there, Dylan. I'm going to take Rearview Mirror. So I love Rearview Mirror. Every time they played it, it's like one of the greatest songs. I've seen them 3 times. They played it all 3 times. And we're here. We need the channel to put the competition in the rearview mirror.
Mhm.
And everybody gets a guitar. I mean, they give Ed a guitar and everybody's singing the whole time because the original song's overdubbed. And Rearview Mirror, love that song. It's on every workout mix that I have. One of my favorites. The other one, I'll lean into Matt, and nobody's going to think of the song, but In My Tree. In My Tree off of No Code. Great guitar, great drum. That Jack Irons drummed that album, I believe, and unbelievable. So In My Tree, because everybody's got to get in my tree so that we can, and the lyrics on that, that's a total channel and collaboration song. Dylan, you got another one for us?
Sure. Better Man. Everybody sings this together. Everybody feels good about it. That's what happens when we drive business through the channel.
Matt, what else do you have on your list?
It's kind of funny. I'm gonna veer off the track just a little bit, because if I really think of the collection, once I start to think through that, it's actually one of Eddie Vedder's individual albums that is really one of my favorite, that really represents a lot about what I think about when I think about his voice, and that's Into the Wild. And then the song off of that is called Hard Sun.
Yeah.
And the whole song is really just a sense of humility of, look how small we are in this environment, that's around us, and how you have to kind of adopt and be respectful of what's around you. When you look at the forces that are all coming at all of us in the security industry, how organized our adversaries have gotten, in the way that they, they're kind of coming in after us, you've got to step back from all of this, and think about, look, it's our ability to cooperate with all the people in our ecosystem. And the only way that we can kind of slow this down in any sense or fort off again is we've got to stop acting as individual companies. And we've got to start to weave, a little ourselves together and kind of take this on in the head. And it takes a little humility to kind of step back and go, okay, we're not the only ones fighting off this problem. We need our partners. We need our ecosystem partners. All of us need to start to work on strategies together so that we can communicate and we can actually, kind of stop all of this madness.
I think Matt's the winner as far as the best pick and description. That was outstanding, man.
Hey, you guys have killed it. I'm going to take one last song and then we're going to wrap up. The one song, and I'll go back to Matt's first comment with Black as the blank canvas, but I took Faithful, which is one of my favorite songs. And the one reason is in sales, you have to believe in the company that you represent, the product that you're selling, and yourself. And one of the big lines in Faithful is we all believe that we are going to secure more than our competition. We're going to protect more customers. So that's why I love that. We could talk for another half hour. I got 8 more songs on here because I didn't know what you guys were going to come up with. Be like, we can go through this for a week, but Faithful, we all believe. And we believe Fortinet, and we're growing and the market is coming back. We've talked to many customers that said, hey, we already have a solution, but we have multiple point solutions, best of breed, and we need to do something different. So I love working with both of you. And I would encourage anybody on the channel side, hey, do you need to go sell something? If you're not selling security or networking, give us a call. You got a cloud project. You want to reach out to us, the call to action. Myself or Matt, Dylan, my email address, jmervis@fortinet.com. You don't want to talk to me, you want to talk to Tom or Eric, healthcare@fortinet.com, D Cooper@fortinet.com, M Larkin @fortinet.com. We're all on LinkedIn all the time. So, happy to jump together. Next guest, I'm going to have one of our visibility partners on, working on exactly who from there is, but appreciate everybody getting on the podcast, and we'll see you next week. Thanks, guys.
Cheers.
Thank you. Bye.